My best friend, who knew everything about me, betrayed me. He stole the woman I loved. But one phone call turned everything upside down. The truth came out, and it was the kind that stops your heart cold. My name's Jake Wilson. I'm 29, and I live in Austin, Texas. I'm a marketer at a small company that helps tech startups break into the scene. My days are a whirlwind of meetings, deadlines, and morning jogs through Zilker Park, where I try to shake off work stress and find a moment of peace. I'm not the type to chase attention at loud parties, but I love chill evenings with friends at bars on Rainy Street, where cold beers and laughter drown out the exhaustion, and life feels simpler. I've got an old Labrador named Max, with gray on his muzzle and eyes that seem to say, "Everything's gonna be okay, boss." My apartment's a modest little haven with a view of Austin's twinkling lights, where I strum my guitar, though my chords sound like a cat walked across the strings. At night, I put on old movies, The Breakfast Club to Blade Runner, to escape reality and feel safe for a while. I grew up in a Dallas suburb, in a house that smelled like motor oil and books. My dad fixed trucks, my mom worked at the school library, and they taught me that honesty and hard work are the backbone of life. But I always dreamed of something bigger than the quiet routine of a small town, where every day blends into the last. So I moved to Austin, went to the University of Texas, and that's where I met Ryan. He was my dorm roommate, a guy with a dazzling smile and the knack for pulling me out of any funk. We survived late-night study sessions, wild parties, and our first heartbreaks together. Ryan could make me laugh even when everything was going to hell, and I trusted him like I trusted myself. He was my anchor in the stormy sea of youth, and I thought our friendship was unbreakable. 3 years ago, I met Leia. It was at a friend's party, where she stood by the wall, holding a glass of wine, laughing like the whole world was her stage. Her eyes glowed with warmth, and her voice was soft, like a summer breeze wrapping around your soul. Leah was a graphic designer who loved photographing sunsets and finding beauty in the little things. Cracks in the pavement, city reflections in puddles. I fell for her at first sight, and soon she became the center of my world. Every word she said, every smile, was like a breath of fresh air in a stuffy room. I dreamed of our future, a house with a garden, road trips along the coast, maybe even kids, though I was never the type to plan decades ahead. Leah made me feel truly alive, like every day was an adventure full of light and hope. Ryan was thrilled about our relationship. He called Leah the one and joked that I'd finally found someone who could put up with my cheesy 80s movie jokes. I was happy that my best friend and my girlfriend got along so well. It felt like the perfect picture, everything in its place, like a puzzle put together with love. But I didn't know that cracks were already forming beneath that picture, ready to tear my heart apart and leave my life in ruins. The first signs of trouble were so subtle I barely noticed them, like the first raindrops before a hurricane that sweeps everything away. Leah and Ryan always got along, and I thought that was a gift. I loved that my girlfriend could chat with my best friend, laugh at his jokes, talk about memes, or even go to a concert together if I was swamped with work. I saw it as harmony, a sign that my life was falling into place, like a melody where every note hits just right. But about 6 months ago, something shifted, and I felt a chill in my chest, like my heart knew something I didn't yet understand. Ryan started showing up at our place more often, even when I wasn't there. He'd bring anchovy pizza, which Leah loved, or suggest watching a new show that she'd totally dig. Leah would tell me about it with a smile, like it was no big deal, and I tried to brush off the slight unease starting to simmer inside me. But one day, I came home early and found them in the kitchen. Ryan pouring wine, his hand brushing her shoulder by accident, and Leah laughing at his story about getting stuck in an elevator with a clown at a work event. They looked so comfortable, so natural, that for a second I felt like a stranger in my own apartment. My chest tightened, like someone flipped off the light inside me, and I felt my heart skip a beat. I pushed the feeling away, forced a smile, and joined them, but it came back later, like a shadow clinging to my heels, whispering about betrayal. Ryan started making little comments about me, wrapped in friendly sarcasm but laced with a sharp sting that slowly sank into my soul. Over dinner, he'd say I worked too much and probably forgot how to have fun. Leah would smile, but I noticed her gaze lingering on me, like she was weighing his words, searching for cracks in our love. Another time, he said Leah deserved someone who'd give her adventures, not just sit at home with a laptop and a dog. I laughed it off, but the sense of betrayal grew in my chest, like someone was slowly pulling threads from the fabric of my life. Once, he said Leah was like a movie heroine who deserved epic stories, and I was just a guy with a guitar who didn't know how to surprise her. Those words cut deep, like a knife, and I started noticing Leah pausing after his jokes, her eyes darkening, her smile tightening like a mask hiding doubts. Our relationship started to fray, and every fight was like another blow to an already shaky foundation. We argued over small stuff. I forgot to call when I got held up at work, or she got mad that I didn't want to go out of town for the weekend, preferring a cozy night in. She said she missed spontaneity, that we were stuck in a rut, and her words sliced like a blade, leaving me bleeding. I felt her slipping away, like sand through my fingers, and I tried to fix it. I planned sunset dates by the lake, where we'd sit wrapped in each other's arms under the stars. I bought her favorite lilies, their scent filling our apartment. I took her to a restaurant with live music, where we danced to old jazz, and I whispered how much I loved her. But every time I thought we were back in sync, she pulled away, her eyes colder, her voice quieter, like an echo fading into nothing. It was like chasing a train that had already left, leaving me on an empty platform, gasping from helplessness. Ryan was always there to support. He'd say Leah was just going through a rough patch, that all couples hit bumps. His words sounded sincere, his eyes full of sympathy. But now I see they were poison disguised as care. He was slowly chipping away at our happiness, like rust eating through metal. My soul screamed that something was wrong, but I silenced it, trusting the guy who was already sharpening a knife for my heart, ready to strike. That night was like a knife to the heart, sharp and sudden, the kind of wound you don't recover from. It was a Friday, and I came home after a brutal workday, looking forward to a cozy night with Leah. We were supposed to order sushi, drink her favorite peach sake, and watch a dumb rom-com to laugh and forget our problems. I even stopped by the store to grab a bottle of her favorite wine, hoping the small gesture would melt the ice between us, bring back her smile that I hadn't seen in so long. But when I opened the door, my heart stopped, like someone yanked the plug out of my life. Leah was sitting on the couch, staring at the floor, her eyes red from crying, her cheeks wet like she'd been sobbing for hours. Her bag was on the table, neatly packed, like she was ready to bolt. Max, my lab, lay at her feet, looking at her with worry, his tail still, like he felt the world crumbling too. I asked what was wrong, trying to choke down the panic clawing at my throat. She looked up, her eyes full of pain and resolve, and said we needed to break up. Her words hit like a concrete wall, crushing everything inside me. I froze, unable to believe this was real. She spoke fast, her voice trembling but sounding rehearsed. We were too different. We wanted different things. She didn't feel the same anymore. I tried to argue, asked what I'd done wrong, but she just shook her head, saying it was better for both of us. My soul screamed in agony, but I couldn't find the words to stop her. When I asked if there was someone else, she hesitated, her eyes darting away, and that moment was like a knife twisting in the wound, tearing my heart to pieces. She left, leaving me in an empty apartment with a bottle of sake and Max, who whimpered softly, sensing my life falling apart. The next day, I drove to Ryan's, desperate for comfort. I needed my friend to listen, to help me pick up the pieces of my shattered life. I didn't call ahead, just got in my car and drove, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me afloat. But when he opened the door, I saw Leah. She was standing in his living room, wearing his old UT football shirt, her hair messy, her eyes guilty. Ryan looked like he'd been caught red-handed, his face flushed, but he didn't say a word. Leah tried to speak, her voice shaking like a leaf in the wind, but it drowned in my anger and despair. I turned and left, feeling the world collapse under my feet. My best friend and my girlfriend, together. It was a betrayal that ripped my heart to shreds, leaving a bleeding void. I drove home, tears burning my eyes, my mind pounding with one thought. How could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted them while they wove a web of lies behind my back? The weeks that followed were like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I took leave from work because I couldn't look at a computer screen without seeing Leah in that damn shirt, her guilty eyes cutting deeper than any knife. Days blurred into a gray haze. I'd get up, feed Max, drink beer, and stare at the ceiling, trying not to think. But my thoughts were like knives, stabbing again and again, each time deeper. How long had they been lying to me? Did Ryan know what he was doing when he hugged me at parties and said I could always count on him? Was Leah ever genuine, or was I just a blind fool, dancing on the edge of a cliff, oblivious to how close it was? I stopped answering calls. Friends tried to reach out, sending texts like, "Hang in there, man," or "Call if you want to talk." But their words felt empty, like glass shattering on concrete, only amplifying my pain. Some, I later learned, took Ryan and Leah's side. One guy, Trevor, texted me, "Maybe you were too boring for her. She needs adventure." I deleted him from my contacts, feeling anger burn through me like acid, eating away at what little faith I had left in people. How could they so easily believe the worst about me? My heart tore from betrayal, and loneliness wrapped around me like a cold fog, seeping into every cell. Max was my only lifeline. He'd lie next to me, resting his gray muzzle on my lap, looking at me with such loyalty that I felt a little less alone. Sometimes I'd talk to him, spilling my pain. How was I such an idiot, Max? How did I not see it? He'd wag his tail like he was saying he still loved me, no matter what. Those moments were the only light in my darkness, the only thing keeping me from falling into the abyss of despair. Anger grew like a storm, ready to tear through a city. I was furious at Ryan for his betrayal, at Leah for turning her back on me so easily, but mostly at myself. I should have seen the signs. I should have protected my heart. At night, I lay awake, replaying every moment, every smile from Ryan, every word from Leah. I felt betrayed not just by them, but by my own naivety that let them destroy my life. My soul was like a shattered mirror, every shard reflecting my pain. One day, about a month later, I decided to go through a box of Leah's stuff she'd left at my place. There was her sweater, still smelling like her vanilla perfume, which stole my breath. A few design and photography books from our trips. Happy memories that now felt like lies, like props in a cheap play. I wanted to throw it all out to escape the pain choking me, but I found her old sketchbook. Flipping through it, I saw a note in her neat handwriting. It wasn't a love letter, but more like a diary, and every word hit like a punch to the heart. She wrote about doubts Ryan planted. "He says Jake's too predictable. Maybe he's right." Another line read, "Ryan said I deserve more. Why am I doubting Jake?" My blood rushed to my head, my heart clenched with rage, like someone gripped it in a fist. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a calculated attack, cold and deliberate, like a chess game where I was a pawn. I started piecing together how Ryan was always there when we fought, how he accidentally poured fuel on the fire. He told Leah I wasn't the one for her, that I couldn't give her what she deserved. He played on her insecurities like strings, slowly eroding her faith in me. My soul screamed in pain, but now it was mixed with rage, hot, unstoppable, like lava ready to burn everything in its path. How could I have been so blind? How did I let him manipulate us while my life fell apart? I decided to dig deeper. Ryan and I had a shared cloud drive with photos and videos from our trips and parties. I logged in, my fingers trembling with anticipation, and found a folder he'd created a few months back. Inside were screenshots of a conversation I'd never seen. It was supposedly Leah messaging some guy, flirting, joking, suggesting they meet up. But I knew instantly it was fake. The style was off. Too many emojis Leah hated. Ryan had sent me those messages before our last big fight, the one where I accused her of cheating. I believed him, and it destroyed us. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached, and a storm raged in my chest. He didn't just steal my girlfriend, he orchestrated our downfall, savoring every moment like a sadist watching his victim suffer. 2 months passed, and I was getting used to the emptiness in my chest, like an unwelcome guest who'd settled in. My phone rang with an unknown number, and I almost hung up, thinking it was spam, but something, maybe intuition, maybe desperation, made me answer. It was Emily, Leah's friend, who I'd met a couple of times at parties. I vaguely remembered her, a petite girl with short dark hair and a habit of fidgeting with her bracelet. Her voice shook, like she was scared of her own words, and it made my heart race, like a drum roll before a battle. She said she knew what happened between me, Leah, and Ryan, and had information I'd want to hear. My blood froze, like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure what lay below. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop on South Congress Avenue, where the crowd's noise felt safe, but my heart pounded like it sensed a storm coming. Emily was waiting at a table by the window, clutching a latte, her fingers denting the cardboard cup. Her eyes were tired, but determined, like she'd mustered all her courage to speak. She got straight to the point, like she was afraid she'd lose her nerve, and her words hit like an avalanche. She said Ryan planned it all. For months, he convinced Leah I wasn't right for her, that I was too boring, too predictable. He whispered doubts until she believed our relationship was a mistake, that I was trapping her in a cage of routine. Every word was like a drop of poison, slowly killing her love for me, and I felt my soul tear apart, realizing the guy I thought was my brother was my executioner. Emily showed me screenshots of her texts with Leah, and each one was like a whip cracking across my skin. In one, Leah wrote, "Ryan said Jake will never change. Maybe he's right." In another, she admitted Ryan helped her see the truth about our relationship. The worst was a message where she mentioned the fake texts Ryan showed me to make me think she was cheating. That was the fight that broke us. I stared at the screen, feeling anger and pain fuse into a molten knot in my chest. My hands shook, and a lump lodged in my throat I couldn't swallow. I wanted to scream, to smash something, but instead I just sat there, staring at the phone like it could explain why my life had turned into hell. Ryan didn't just betray me. He manipulated us both like a puppeteer, relishing our collapse. I asked why she waited so long to tell me, my voice hoarse, like I hadn't spoken in weeks. Emily admitted she was scared of Ryan. His charisma hid a dark side. He could be terrifyingly cruel if crossed. Her eyes filled with tears as she recounted how he once humiliated her in front of friends to silence her. But recently, she'd learned something that pushed her to speak, and her words hit like thunder in a clear sky. Emily said Ryan was cheating on Leah with another girl while they were together. She saw them at a bar on 6th Street. Him with his arm around some blonde, his hand on her waist, his eyes gleaming with that predatory spark I now recognized. When Emily tried to bring it up, Ryan threatened to ruin her reputation, calling her a gossip. His voice so cold she backed off, fearing the consequences. She gave me the girl's name, Sophia, and offered to connect us. My blood boiled with rage, but I felt a strange relief. The truth was rising, like dark water revealing hidden filth, and I was ready to drown in it if it meant justice. I found Sophia on Instagram. Her profile was full of vibrant photos, posing for local brands with a perfect smile and carefree eyes that hid her pain. I messaged her, expecting to be ignored, but she replied almost instantly, like she'd been waiting for my text. We met at Lady Bird Lake Park, and she was straightforward, with a sharp voice and eyes that didn't tolerate lies. Sophia confirmed she'd been seeing Ryan for 3 months, unaware of Leah. When she saw their photos on social media, she confronted him, but he brushed it off, calling Leah a temporary fling. Sophia was furious, her voice shaking as she described how he laughed at her attempts to get the truth, like she was a toy he could toss aside. Her eyes welled up, but she wiped them quickly, refusing to show weakness. She said this wasn't his first time. Years ago, Ryan broke up another couple by convincing the girl her boyfriend was cheating. I reached out to other friends, and their stories confirmed the worst. Matt told me how Ryan tried to sabotage his relationship, whispering lies to his girlfriend until she doubted his every word. Caitlin recalled how he spread false rumors that nearly destroyed her friendship with someone close. Each story was like a hammer blow, shattering the image of Ryan I thought I knew. He wasn't just a traitor, he was a predator, feeding on chaos and control, and his smile, which I thought was friendly, was a monster's mask. My heart tore with pain and rage. I remembered how, back in college, he said, "I hate losing." I thought it was just youthful bravado, but now I saw his true face. He envied my happiness, wanted to prove he could take whatever he wanted. My soul screamed for justice, but I knew I had to be careful not to become another victim of his game. Before acting, I decided to meet one more person from Ryan's past, his ex-girlfriend from college, Claire. He'd said she went crazy and dumped him, but now I doubted every word he'd ever said, like it was all poisoned lies. I found Claire through mutual friends, and she agreed to meet at a small cafe on the outskirts of Austin. She was a tall woman with tired eyes and a calm voice, but I sensed old pain behind her composure, like a scar that never heals. Claire said Ryan ruined her life. He manipulated her, making her doubt herself, her friends, even her family. He spread rumors to isolate her, and when he dumped her for another girl, she was left alone. He loves control, she said, looking me in the eyes, her voice cold, but full of pain. He gets off on watching people break. Her words were like a cold shower, but they confirmed my suspicions. Ryan didn't just betray me. He was a master of destruction, and I was just one of his victims. I felt rage boil over, but also a strange solidarity. Claire had been through what I had, and her strength, despite it all, inspired me. Claire showed me old texts she'd saved. In them, Ryan mocked her, called her too emotional, and bragged to friends about handling her. I felt nausea rise but couldn't look away from the screen. Each word was another nail in the coffin of his mask. Claire warned me to be careful. Ryan wouldn't stop if he felt threatened. Her eyes were full of worry, and I realized she was still scared of him, even years later. I thanked her and left, feeling a fire of resolve ignite inside me. Before moving forward, I met one more person from Ryan's past, his former co-worker Nick, who'd once mentioned leaving a job because of a conflict with Ryan. I found him on LinkedIn and messaged him, explaining I wanted to talk. Nick agreed to meet at a bar on Austin's east side, and I noticed right away he was nervous, glancing around like he thought someone was watching. Nick said Ryan set him up at work, faking a report to make him look incompetent. He manipulated colleagues into thinking Nick was unreliable until he lost the team's trust. He did it with a smile, Nick said, his voice shaking with old hurt, like it was a game. Nick quit to save his reputation, but couldn't forget how Ryan wrecked his career. He showed me an email where Ryan bragged to their boss about fixing the problem with Nick. It was another piece of the puzzle, and my resolve grew stronger, despite the pain still burning inside. Nick warned that Ryan was dangerous when cornered. "He'll lie, manipulate, do anything to wiggle out," he said, echoing Claire's words. I realized I had to be not just smarter than Ryan, but craftier. I thanked Nick and left, feeling my anger harden into cold determination. I didn't want to drown in rage, though it burned like a wildfire, threatening to consume what was left of my soul. I wanted Ryan to feel the same pain I did: betrayal, humiliation, loneliness. But I knew he was cunning, and I had to play smart to keep him from slipping away like always. First, I decided to talk to Leah. She deserved the truth, even if I wasn't ready to forgive her. I texted her, "We need to meet. I know Ryan was lying." My fingers shook as I sent it, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and hope that the truth might change something, even if not for us, then for her. Leah replied a few hours later, agreeing to meet at a park near her new place. When I saw her, my heart clenched like it was caught in a steel trap. She looked broken, pale, eyes swollen, hair messily tied up, her hands trembling as she adjusted her scarf. She stood with her arms crossed, like she was shielding herself from the world, her eyes full of pain and fear. I didn't waste time on small talk. I showed her Emily's screenshots and told her about Sophia. At first, she didn't believe me, shaking her head, whispering that Ryan couldn't have done that. Her voice trembled, like she was clinging to a lifeline, an illusion keeping her afloat. But when I showed her the photo of Ryan and Sophia, her face went white, her eyes filled with tears she tried to hold back. She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking, and I heard a soft sob, like her soul finally broke. She thought Ryan had saved her from me, that he was her destiny. I didn't comfort her. Her pain was her own, the result of her choices. I told her she needed to figure out how to move forward and left her on the bench, her face buried in her hands, tears dripping onto the pavement like rain. I wanted Ryan to answer for everything. I set up a meetup at a bar on Rainy Street, inviting all our mutual friends. I said it was just a hangout so no one would suspect anything, but my heart pounded with anticipation, like a drum before an execution. Emily and Sophia agreed to come, though they were scared Ryan would turn it against them. I convinced them the truth was on our side, and they nodded, their eyes burning with resolve, mixed with fear. That night, the bar was full of noise and laughter, but I felt tension building, like the air before a storm. When everyone was there, I took the floor. My voice shook with anger, but I laid it all out. The fake texts, Ryan's manipulations, how he poisoned Leah with lies, his cheating with Sophia. I showed the screenshots, each message a nail in his mask. Emily and Sophia shared their stories, their voices trembling but firm with truth. Our friends stared at Ryan, their eyes full of shock and accusation. He tried to laugh it off, calling it a misunderstanding, but his smile cracked like porcelain, his voice betraying his fear. Leah, who was there too, stayed silent, staring at the floor, her face pale as chalk, like she was seeing the ghost of her own betrayal. Finally, Ryan snapped. He jumped up, accusing everyone of betraying him, his face red, eyes blazing like a cornered animal. "You're all just jealous of me," he shouted, his voice breaking. "You don't get it." He stormed out, slamming the door, and the silence that followed was deafening, like after an explosion. I felt the tension lift, and for the first time in months, I breathed deeply, like I'd shed a heavy weight. After that night, everything changed. Ryan became an outcast in our circle. Friends turned their backs on him, and the story of his actions spread on social media like wildfire, burning everything in its path. Some people messaged me, apologizing for initially siding with him, their words sincere but laced with shame. I didn't reply. They'd believed the worst about me too easily, and that left a scar that won't heal, a reminder that trust is fragile. Leah tried to reach out a few times. She sent long texts, begging for forgiveness, her words dripping with pain and regret, like she was trying to piece together what she'd shattered. She said she was blind, that she let Ryan destroy what we had, and that she hated herself for it. But I didn't respond. She knew the truth, and that was enough. Her tears couldn't undo what she'd broken, and I wasn't ready to open my heart to pain again, not after it nearly destroyed me. Ryan started paying for his actions. I heard he lost his job. His boss, a friend of one of our mutuals, learned what happened and decided he didn't want to work with someone who betrays so easily. Ryan tried to defend himself, posting long rants on social media about how everyone was against him. One read, "People believe gossip, not the truth. I was just trying to help." The comments were brutal, calling him a liar and manipulator, and I saw his mask finally shatter. One evening, I was sitting on my balcony, watching Austin's twinkling lights, when Caitlin called. She said Ryan had left town, like he was trying to escape his past. His last attempt to justify himself fell flat. No one wanted to listen, and he'd become a shadow of himself. Leah, she said, was trying to start over, but her reputation was tarnished. Friends avoided her, remembering how easily she turned her back on me, and Caitlin said she looked lost, like her world had collapsed, and she didn't know how to rebuild. I felt a strange relief, not joy, but freedom, like someone had cut the chains tying me to the past. Their downfall didn't bring back what I'd lost, but it proved the truth always rises, like oil on water. I looked at Max, sleeping at my feet, his breathing calm, and smiled. We'd survived the storm, and I was ready for a new beginning. But deep down, I still felt a faint ache, not for Leah or Ryan, but for the part of me that trusted so easily and was crushed by it. Months passed, and I started coming back to life. I ran with Max in the mornings again, feeling fresh air fill my lungs, the pain in my chest quieter, like distant thunder after a storm. I signed up for guitar lessons, deciding it was time to learn more than my clumsy chords, and each new chord was like a step toward a new version of myself. At night, I met new people who didn't know my past, and it felt like a breath of freedom, like I could breathe without the weight of old wounds. I started feeling like me again, not the broken guy, but someone who could start fresh, scars and all. One day at a coffee shop, I ran into Emily. We got to talking, and she said Leah had tried to reconcile with Ryan. She'd texted him, apologizing and saying she wanted to forget everything, like she hoped to reclaim the illusion he'd built. He laughed at her, called her pathetic, and said he didn't need her anymore. Emily shook her head, saying Leah looked lost, like her soul was stuck in the past, and she didn't know how to live without him. I didn't feel satisfaction, just emptiness. They'd both gotten what they deserved, but their pain didn't heal mine. It only reminded me how fragile the human soul is. Looking back, I'm not glad it happened, but I'm grateful for the lessons it burned into my heart. Ryan and Leah's betrayal was like a lightning strike that torched everything I thought was my home, leaving only ashes. But from those ashes, I built a stronger, wiser, more cautious version of myself. I learned to value myself and those who truly care about me, who won't betray me even when the world falls apart. Karma caught up with Ryan and Leah, and I'm okay with that. They made their choices, and now they live with the consequences, like a shadow that'll follow them forever. Me? I'm moving forward, building a life full of light, surrounded by people who won't stab me in the back. It's the best outcome I could have hoped for, and I carry my scars with pride, proof that I survived. Have you ever been betrayed by someone close? Share your story in the comments. Let's support each other.